Now, I'm curious about what your approach is nowadays towards meditation. So, is it simply something that you're trying to go deeper and deeper into? Is it some sort of a thing of turning up and being consistent about it and paying your dues to something? Or is it maybe something different about getting to a higher consciousness or trying to develop some sort of third eye?
Uh-huh. I think it's more of a combination of the first two things you said, um, which is partly, I mean, in monastic life, it's important not to, I don't know what the word is exactly. It's important not to be too emotional in spiritual life. And I mean emotional in a very specific way. Like, I think what happens with a lot of spiritual aspirants is they get like these momentary bursts of sort of enthusiasm or something, and then they like spend 6 hours in meditation, and then they get dry for a while. They don't do any meditation at all, and like that's problematic in monastic life. So it's very important for monks to stick with their meditation routine, regardless of whether they, their mind is restless or calm, or whether they feel like it or not. So that's kind of more along the lines of the first of the three things you mentioned, which is it's important to just keep up the routine. But of course, there's a danger that that routine becomes mechanical, and you're just doing it, as you said, to pay your dues, which is a funny way of putting it. Um, but yeah, so the ideal is, of course, to deepen the meditation in the course of the practice, and to, in our tradition, our main meditation practice is what's called japa. It's mantra japa, which means mental repetition of a mantra given to us by our guru, while also concentrating on usually a form of your chosen deity and the form of God that you prefer to meditate on. So it's a kind of theistic, you can call it a theistic or devotional form of meditation. So the idea is, as you continue to meditate, you want to deepen that meditation. Try to concentrate on the form of God and the name of God as much as you can without distractions, without having the mind run off in other directions. And at the same time, have a certain feeling behind the practice. I mean, the practice should ideally be informed by what Sri Ramakrishna used to call a longing for God. If you've just met somebody you're in love with, you're going to think about that person constantly, just naturally. You don't need to actually like make an effort to think about that person, right? That's how we're encouraged to think of God and meditate on God, right? But that it's harder to love God in that same way, right? That's why it's so challenging. Spiritual life is so challenging. But that's the idea in meditation, is that it should not just be a mechanical practice, but it should be informed by, the Sanskrit term is bhava, or by a certain kind of a deep feeling for God. And if you have that, then the meditation becomes living and less mechanical.
Right. And so is it you focus on that sort of relationship with God and maybe getting closer rather than letting your mind go other places and go on to maybe drifts with thoughts that come along?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so it's, Jesus said you can choose God or mammon, but not both. And in our scriptures, Vedantic scriptures, like the Kathopanishad, we're told the same thing, just in slightly different language. There are two paths that confront every spiritual aspirant, Shreya and Preya, or every human being, Shreya and Preya. Shreya means the path of spiritual perfection and enlightenment, and Preya is the path of enjoyment, worldly enjoyment. And you have to pick the one that you're committed to and try to stick to it, and make sure not to confuse one for the other. That's another big danger. I just gave a lecture on self-deception in spiritual life, where that was a prominent part of the discussion, where people think they're on the path of spiritual enlightenment, but they're actually it's a kind of pseudo-spiritual justification for engaging in worldly enjoyment.